Today we are going to look at why you're charging so little as a solopreneur. Yeah. So if you're watching this, it is most probably that you don't get to have a pricing problem, but what you have is a confidence problem. So now what ends up happening is you're confusing confidence problem to be a pricing problem. Yeah. So let's get into the detail using this baby whiteboard. Yeah. So there's an epidemic that is moving on or that is cropping up in most of the solopreneurs, and it's eating up most of you. Yeah. So the epidemic is you get to think the reason why your business isn't flowing, yeah, the reason why you're not making sales as much as you would have wanted is because you have a pricing problem. Yeah. But this is wrong. Yeah. Why I'm saying that is wrong is because you don't get to have a pricing problem, but what you really get to have is a confidence problem. Yeah. So the right one is you have a confidence problem. Yeah. So when you factor into all that, if you want to have a one-liner statement to justify or to represent this underpricing epidemic, is one, you have a confidence problem that is disguising itself as a pricing problem. No wonder your lack of confidence to believe in the price you want to state is what you yourself as a person who is trying to sell too little tend to confuse as a pricing problem. Yeah. So now the epidemic as to why this is the case is because you have a pricing problem. I hope that is now clear. So in most cases, there are three tending patterns that most of y'all that get to sell too little tend to give, yeah, especially if you have this problem. And one, you tend to say, I'm new, yeah, so I'm new in the market. I don't see why I need to charge higher prices. So because you're new, you set up lower prices. The second one, you say, I want to attract more clients. Yeah. So because you're new, you have to say, let me just sell something, or let me sell my offers. Let me sell my services at a low cost. Why? Because it's going to attract more clients. Yeah. And then lastly, you want people to say yes. You want to have as many clients get to say yes to whatever it is that you're selling. If you're a freelancer, you want to have as many people to say yes to you so that you take on every job. If you're a coach, you want to have as many people say yes. Yeah. And when you combine all these three, being new, wanting to attract more clients, and wanting everyone to say yes, it is going to force you, yeah, into undercharging. Meaning, it's the reason, or it's some of the reason that you give for lower pricing. Are we together? And yeah, in the short term, this is going to be reasonable. Why? Because it's true, you're new. That's the fact. The second thing, because you're new and you choose to sell at a lower price, you're going to attract more clients. Yeah. Less price will attract more. Because trust me, there are many people in this world that really want to take advantage of the low prices. Yeah. For instance, if you're in Uganda, when Chinatown, yeah, opened, everyone was flocking that area because they had lower prices than what was in the market by then. Yeah. So if you try and go use maybe Amazon or what, I don't know, there are always people that are looking out for cheaper stuff. Yeah. So you trying to charge less or charge very little is going to get you more of those clients. Yeah. So two, you're going to have more say yes to your offer. Yeah. For instance, you're say a freelancer trying to do website design, yeah, and you have less your prices are so low or so small, more people are going to come to you. More people are going to subscribe to your service so that you get to do more of that. Yeah. And then lastly, because you're new and you're charging less prices, you're going to attract attention from the market, which is going to be advantageous. Yeah. That is going to drive to more clients, and more clients are going to say yes. Yeah. So you're going to have attention. So this in the short term is a working strategy, and no doubt about that. But in the long term, here's what gets to happen that most of you tend to underlook, especially those of you solopreneurs who are charging less. Yeah. So to start off with, because you're new and you're charging less, you're going to attract more clients. So what gets to happen if you attract more clients? Obviously, you're going to work more. Yeah. Because that's obvious. If you have more clients, that's more work. Okay. The second thing that is going to happen is you're going to burn out. Working more is one problem, and burning out is one problem. Yeah. And this time, and in most cases, this burnout will also lead to resentment of your work. Yeah? Because now you have many people to take care of. You're going to reach a point where the math is not adding up. You're burning out. You're earning less. Yeah, which brings us to another point. Yeah, you profit less. Yeah? Because you have more people who are paying less, it starts not to make sense because you're always burning out because you're trying to serve more people, which makes you hate your job. Okay, so long term, these short upsides are going to turn into downsides because you're going to work more, which is going to burn you out, which will also be less profitable. Yeah, and the reason why this is, yeah, you reach this point is because the math stops making sense. And when the math stops making sense, this is what's going to happen. You're going to sit back as a solopreneur and assess, why am I earning less? Now your entrepreneurial knowledge starts to click. Yeah. But if you really want to shortcut that, I wrote a book called Price It. Yeah. Price It Right. Alan Chibuka is going to help you do away with the math problems. So you're going to get an upper hand. You start right away to realize all this. But back to this. When the math starts making sense, you're going to have to troubleshoot that because if you don't, you're going to run out of business. So the earlier the better. And when you troubleshoot this, now you're going to understand, why am I making less profits? Yeah. So now you go back to the real cost, the one that I emphasize in my book, Price It Right. So you start making, oh, what is the real cost? How much am I doing? How much am I earning? And blah blah blah, stuff like that. Okay. And in most cases, this is just the top surface level. That the most hidden driver or the most hidden driver that drives most people to this long term downsides is fear. Most of y'all, you're afraid to charge higher prices. Most of y'all are afraid to charge higher prices because you have fear. Fear of what, you might ask? One, there is fear of rejection. Yeah, you fear to be rejected because you charge higher prices. Yeah, and that is one. The second one, you fear more. Uh, you fear to look expensive. You think if you get to charge higher prices, you're going to look expensive. Yeah? And in most cases, in your mind, you think the more expensive you get to look is the less people you're going to attract. Yeah, to some extent, maybe, but to some other extents, that's not the case. And I'll give you a reason why. Maybe I'll get to do a video about that. Yeah, but if you have this, probably a short one would be a wrong market fit. Yeah. But that will be a video of another day. If you want me to make more or make that video about that, just let me know in the comments. But then the other one, you fear to lose clients. Yeah? You think that because you're new and you're charging expensively, yeah, clients will not come to you for business. Yeah. So the whole essence or the whole driving factor is fear. Yeah. When you have all these underlying fear factors, it is going to make you charge the little price you have so that try to make some profit. But we've seen that on the upside, it is not good at all. Okay. So the this guy is this. Yeah. So this is what most of you tend to call it. This is what most of you tend to, justify that fear. These are the words you tend. So most of y'all tend to justify this fear by disguising it as something. Yeah. What is that something? You disguise fear as strategy. Yeah. The fear of charging expensively, or that fear of charging less, you disguise that to be a strategy that, oh, if I get to charge less, I'm going to attract more. Yeah, that is a strategy. Yeah. Others, you disguise it as marketing. So you think to yourself, if I market myself as someone who charges less than what is charged in the market, I'm going to attract more. Yeah. I'm going to get more people say yes to my offer. Yeah. And I'm going to have that attention that most people don't get to have in their business. Yeah. And then lastly, you're going to look at it as being realistic. So you think because you have this fear, you're going to charge less so that it looks realistic. But that's never the case. Okay. So here's the takeaway key lesson. And it goes like this: underpricing isn't a strategy, but rather it is fear with better branding. So that's it. The reason you're charging little is because you have the fear that is having better branding. What branding? Is because you're disguising it as strategy, you're disguising it as marketing, and you're disguising it as being realistic. So, short term, you earn, but in the long term, you burn out, work more, earn less, yeah, and then eventually you run out of your business. I hope this gets to work out. I hope it helps.